Again, we are continuing our chapter 2, Nationalism in India. Now, Jallianwala Bagh massacre is continued. General Dyer entered the area, blocked the exit points, and opened fire on the crowds, killing hundreds. His object was to produce moral effects in the minds of satyagrahis, a feeling of terror and awe. As the news spread, crowds took to the streets. There were strikes, clashes with the police, and attacks on government buildings. The government responded with force to end the movement. They humiliated and terrorized people. Satyagrahis were forced to rub their noses on the ground, crawl on the streets, and do salam to all sahibs. People were beaten and villages were bombed. Mahatma Gandhi called off the movement when he saw spread of violence. In the meantime, the Khilafat movement started. The Rowlatt Satyagraha had been a widespread movement, but it was still limited in mostly towns and cities. Now he felt that it was necessary to launch a broad-based movement in India. But it was sure that no such movement could be organized without bringing the Hindus and Muslims closer together. One way of doing this, he felt, was to take up the Khilafat issue. The First World War had ended with the defeat of Ottoman Turkey. There were rumors that a harsh peace treaty was going to be imposed on the Ottoman Emperor, who was the spiritual head of the Islamic world after the First World War. The Muslims of India decided to force Britain to change her Turkish policy. A Khilafat committee was formed under the leadership Maulana Azad, Hakim Azmal Khan, and Hasrat Mohani. It was formed in Bombay in March 1919. A young generation of Muslim leaders like the brothers Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali began discussing with Mahatma Gandhi about the possibility of a united mass action on the issue. Gandhiji saw this an opportunity of unifying of Hindus and Muslims as would not rise in 100 years. The Congress passed the resolution in its Calcutta session in September 1920 to start a satyagraha on the Khilafat issue. To gain maximum success, Mahatma Gandhi proposed a stage-by-stage strategy implementation for the movement. The movement had to begin with the surrender of titles, honors, and honorary posts by people. Plan to boycott civil services, army, police, British courts, and legislative assemblies, school and colleges, and British goods. The British goods were to be replaced by domestic goods or Swadeshi to promote the native cottage industries. In case of government suppression, civil disobedience movement will be launched. After a lot of debates, the non-cooperation movement was adopted by the Congress during the Nagpur conference in December 1920. Under Mahatma Gandhi's leadership, non-cooperation Khilafat movement began in full force. Now we are entering in topic 2, differing strands within the movement. In January 1921, the non-cooperation Khilafat movement started. Various social groups participated in the movement with their own specific aspirations. Now, how did the movement occur in the town? The movement started in cities with the middle class participation. Thousands of students left government-controlled schools and colleges. Headmaster and teachers resigned and the lawyers left the courts. On the economic front, the effect of non-cooperation movement were as. The effects of non-cooperation movement on the economic front were dramatic. People boycotted foreign clothes and goods. Liquor shops were picketed. In many places, merchants and traders refused to trade in foreign goods or finance foreign goods. The import of foreign cloth halved. As a result, the production of Indian textile mills and handlooms went up. Now, movement in the city slowed down. There were many reasons, as khadi cloth was expensive and the poor people could not afford to buy it. The boycott of British institutions posed a problem. For the movement to be successful, alternative institutions had to be set up. So the teachers and students finally had to resume their studies and jobs in government schools. Lawyers joined back in government courts. Now the rebellion came in the countryside. From cities, the non-cooperation movement spread to the countryside. In Awadh, the peasant movement developed under the leadership of Baba Ramchandra. This peasant movement demanded revolution of revenue, abolition of begar, and social boycott of oppressive landlords. In many places, Nai Dhobi Bandhs were organized by panchayats to deny services to landlords of even barbers and washermen. In June 1920, Jawaharlal Nehru began going around the villages in Awadh, talking to the villagers and trying to understand their problems. By October, the Awadh Kisan Sabha was set up. It was headed by Jawaharlal Nehru, Baba Ramchandra, and a few others. Within a month, over 300 branches had been set up in the villages around the region. As the movement spread, the houses of talukdars, Indian landholders, and collector of taxes and merchants were attacked. Bazaars were looted and grain hoards were taken over. There was a rumor that local leaders told peasants that Gandhiji had declared that taxes were to be paid and land was to be redistributed among poor. Now, interpretation of Swaraj by tribal peasants. Tribal peasants interpreted the message of Mahatma Gandhi and the idea of Swaraj in another way. They thought that Gandhiji had cleared that no taxes were to be paid. Land was to be redistributed among the poor. In the Gudem Hills of Andhra Pradesh, a militant guerrilla movement spread under the leadership of Alluri Sitaram Raju. Inspired by the non-cooperation movement, Raju talked of the greatness of Mahatma Gandhi and persuaded people to wear khadi and give up drinking according to Gandhian ideas. But at the same time, he believed that India could be liberated only by the use of force, not by non-violence. The Gudem rebels attacked police stations, attempted to kill British officials, and carried on guerrilla warfare for achieving Swaraj. Raju was captured and executed in 1924, and gradually he became a folk hero. Now, Swaraj developed in the plantation area. For plantation workers in Assam, freedom meant the right to move freely in and out of the areas, confined space in which they were enclosed. It meant retaining a link with the village from which they had come. Under the Inland Emigration Act of 1859, plantation workers were not permitted to leave the tea gardens without permission. In reality, they were rarely given such permission. When they heard of the non-cooperation movement, they left the plantations and headed home. But they never reached their destination and were caught by the police and brutally beaten up. So now the second topic is also finished, and more in the next class about the third topic, and the topic is the civil disobedience movement. So thank you and have a nice day.